And we are live, motherfuckers. Simple as. Gift of the gab time. We're back, my friends. Probably going to get shit for that, because I get it in the comment section all the time. All right, my friends. And I get shit off you lot. But I am joined by Luke and Stel for the season's first Gift of the Gab. We have got a lot to get through, haven't we, boys? We've had a little chat beforehand. It has not started well. 10 goals conceded. 4 games lost. We were all filled with such optimism when £100 million got spent. Pellegrini got bought in, but it's the West Ham way to sit and moan, and that is what we are all going to do today. Ant is in charge of the chat. Do be sure to be getting involved. Any questions, anything you want us to bring up, just get in touch. Also, just as a heads up, the Gift of the Gab is going to continue to arrive on YouTube. We're still trying to work out the logistics, but it is going to be turned into a podcast at some point. We are just trying to decide on what format to do that. So if you are into that sort of thing, we will be keeping you guys up to date. But boys, let's get into this. I'm going to come to Luke first because he's the angriest of us all. Because if you haven't seen his grumble, do go and watch it. He had a lot to say. That is an interesting image still. What on earth was that?
It's the cat. It's the cat, mate.
Jesus
the cat.
Christ. I wondered what that was. But yeah, I'll come to you first, Luke. It's not been the best start to the season, mate. Give us a little rundown on your opinion of things.
Oh, how long you got?
We've got all night. This is
Well,
fine,
we like to have a say as well.
I'll be honest with you. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I think there was. I done a rant the other night, and I actually missed about 4 or 5 subjects out to talk about because I was just so angry. Thought I was going training on too long and cut it short. But I'm lost for words a little bit at the minute. It's more than just disappointment and deflation. And I think I was one of a lot of fans who just thought, with like you said, world class manager, players brought in. It was meant to be a lot better. And it's just fucking same old. If it ain't the stadium, it's the players. If it ain't this, it ain't that. And everything's just a shit show at the minute. There's nothing to look forward to.
It's the West Ham way.
Do you know, honestly, right? Stell's cat's probably more in a good mood than I am tonight, and he should be taking over for me tonight. But give me a kick.
I'll pass it over to you then, Stell. I'll pass that same thing over to you.
Well, I'm disappointed. I've got to be honest. I'm not feeling really upset at the moment. I think you got to put it in context. Yeah, we all agreed that before the season started, we were really optimistic. Good manager, spent a lot of money. We were all saying it was going to be a comfortable top 6, 7 finish. I think some of us went even higher, and it's not been good. We've had maybe 1.5 games where we've shown what we can possibly do. First half at Bournemouth and then at Arsenal. But I don't know. It's a damn shame. Maybe it's a bit of a sort of a wake up call to say the season ain't going to be what we all kind of hope for, and that's probably why we're all really disappointed, because I think we thought we were going to go out there, all guns blazing, and win every game. And I think that's why it's been more disappointing. And I guess with the 4 or 5 games we've got coming up as well, we're kind of beginning to think, well, how many points are we going to get? And that's when it's going to start looking desperate. If we don't get many points by the end of October, then even I will start getting a little bit concerned. But I'm not that. I'm worried, but I'm not that worried, if that makes sense.
Well, I guess the biggest concern is obviously the defence. We spent over £30 million improving it. For 20 of that on Diop, 4 million on Balbuena, 7 million on a goalkeeper. Obviously got Fredericks on a free, but yet we're still letting in goals for fun. And I know who you blame, but what the hell is wrong with this defence? And what do you think must be going on in training for it to be this shit again?
Mate, I think it's harsh for me just to blame one player, because it's obviously been going on for a long time. So I'm not the biggest fan of Balbuena, and I think it's been the right decision not to play him. But what's going on with our defence? For me, it stems from 3 years ago, when we've had a constant decline of the amount of goals we've conceded, wrong decisions, how many partnerships in that defensive we've seen, how many players have we seen come and go. It's just a constant problem that I've noticed for 3 or 4 years. Even in the season that we had, a memorable season like the farewell Boleyn season, I clocked our problems in defence, and I wasn't the only one. I had a few discussions with some West Ham fans, but it was always taken away from that because we were scoring more goals. But if we did not have that season of scoring goals, we would have struggled. We still conceded 50 odd, nearly 60 goals in that farewell Boleyn season. So this has been ongoing for 3 seasons. My biggest, I'm kind of on Stell's wavelength though with regards to panicking. I'm not panicking yet. I'm disappointed. I mean, I was the one. I hold my hands up. I predicted 5th. I mean, I just got carried away with us spending money, forgetting, and maybe closer into the season, forgetting the fact that and maybe people hate to hear it, but we've brought in 9 players and those 9 players are questionably all first team starters for other teams. So what a massive impact that's going to have on any side. And I don't really know. I could be wrong here, but what other side in the league has had that massive influx of new players that could potentially start? I mean, West Ham have played 4 games and already we've had 3 or 4 different central defensive partnerships. And that's why I don't panic as much, because I'm thinking Pellegrini is sitting back, he's watching, he's assessing the situation to see what he's going to do moving forward. I think we found a bit of a quality young player in Diop. It's just whether or not who can partner him moving forward.
Yeah, well, obviously a lot of money spent, 4 lost, 10 goals conceded, not a lot of goals scored in the league yet. I think we were deservedly beat in 3 of the 4. I reckon Arsenal, we were unlucky. We probably should have taken something from that game. But it starts again, doesn't it? The blame game. Who do we blame? Now, last season, it was the board, and it was the board every time we come on air, every time we went on Twitter. This season, the thing I'm not enjoying is that the fans are taking the brunt. And, the Wolves game in particular, I spoke to a lot of Wolves fans after the game. They said that they didn't enjoy the match day experience. They didn't think much of the ground, weren't much of an atmosphere there. And obviously the fans have taken the brunt of this. I see a lot of stuff on on Twitter and stuff like that. And what do you guys make of this? I'm going to come to you first, Stel. I know that Luke had a little say about this in his grumble, but what do you make of that, Stel? Should we really be taking the brunt?
Hard one, that, because you kind of got. We had a conversation before we went on live about all the different types of fans that we now have at the new stadium, and you've got the hardcore, and apparently, there's quite a few hardcore that didn't even renew their season tickets, and they've been replaced by fans who maybe don't quite have that history of going to West Ham games on a regular basis, and when Pellegrini picked out that fans were leaving early at a game and all that sort of stuff, so you got the hardcore that are there who will sing their hearts out, and you got people who possibly just don't quite understand what it's like to be behind a team for a full 90 minutes. So it's quite difficult to say that it's all the fans, and I don't think it is. And it's a bit of a two-way street. And I think Luke might have said this in our WhatsApp chat sometime before. The fans have got to have something to cheer about. Yeah. The fans have got to have something to get excited about. And I know we've all had a chat about, the atmosphere at the stadium, and the lead up to the stadium, the walk there, etc. I mean, I've changed my route in the last season and a half. I don't go via Stratford anymore. I go round the back end of the stadium, round through Hackney Wick, and that experience is much nicer, much better. It feels like you're going to a football match than it does going through a shopping centre. Yeah. But the fans have got, when you get in there, it's a two-way street, isn't it? The players have got to give you something to cheer about, but the fans have got to get behind the players as well. Yeah. So it isn't just the fans. It's not the fans at fault, and because there is a mixture of fans in there, it's easier to maybe blame the fans when it possibly isn't so.
Yeah, well,
it's a bit of a mixed answer. Sorry,
yeah,
Les,
but picking up on what you've said there, for people that haven't seen Luke's Grumble, maybe you could, just kind of almost repeat what you said, Luke, about that, because it was one of the things that I picked up on in the Grumble. I was really interested with, and I completely agreed with as well.
Yeah, like I said, I think I just sort of went off the cuff and it wasn't prepared really, but it's been boiling up since the game Saturday, and then I saw all Sunday. Just literally, the atmosphere isn't good. The fans aren't constantly, making it a good atmosphere. There's too many pockets of silent fans or whatever like that. I just think that of all the people you could knock for us not doing well, is the ones who turn up and want us to do well. There is no fan that goes to a game and says, "I want us to draw today. I want us to play a bit bad, and I don't want to get up and sing." Every single fan there wants to go. It goes there full of hope, full of optimism. Almost forgets the last game because they just want to go to this game, and to get there, and all they want to do is sing. Some people just want to sit down and watch a game of football. I understand that. They don't particularly want to see, get up all the time and sing, which is fair enough. Each to their own, and get on a bit. But I just can't understand how. I think it's one of the things where, because you're pissed off and you're ranting, and now with social media, it's just a touch away. Get out of your pocket, boom, 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 that's it. There's my opinion. Is that now, rather than it being down the pub, with your mates and all that sort of stuff, you've got literally a touch of a button, and there's your opinion out there. And it's maybe it was fresh, it was red mist, and people not really, meaning what they said 100%. But I couldn't understand why. I sit around a bunch of seasons ago, so I'm quite lucky with my experience that the people sitting around me are regulars. They sing when there's an opportunity to sing and whatever, and it's great. But I'm there, and I constantly see below me Bobby Moore lower banging on the side of the stand, and the trying to get the fans up around. There's pockets of fans who stand up in front of people and try and get things going on. And there starts to be also like a Mexican wave movement where everyone starts to sort of go, okay, there's a song building up. And then you can see the players for a split second go, okay, the fans are up for this, let's go for it. And then it only takes the smallest mistake. And
it goes quiet.
And it goes quiet, and then the players go, oh, what went wrong? Okay, well, the whole mentality drops. And that's football. That happens anywhere. But fundamentally, when you watch a game like West Ham, where the fans, after about a few minutes worth, go, hold on, we're singing, shouting, all the rest of it, clapping, applauding, but we've just seen Creswell lump a ball into a box when no one's there. Yeah. When there's it's little things like going, what the fuck have we got to do? We're doing our job. And then this is actually what pisses me off. I'll finish this. The last thing I'll say in this little bit: when you get the social media posts by the club, by the players who do the generic, we have to come back. We have to stick by each other. We are better than this. We have the character to pull ourselves out of it. The fans need to turn and then Pellegrini comes out and says the fans shouldn't leave 10 minutes before the game. And it's like, this isn't Man City, mate. This isn't where you win every week. So when we leave, there's a fucking reason for it. And not every. Go.
Do you know what the boring bit is about them generic tweets as well? Is that we hear the same shit every week because we lose most weeks, and it's copy and paste. That's what it is. Is it becomes so generic because we see that bullshit every week.
Can I? Because I go to quite a few away games. I've got to say, whether we're winning or losing, I've got to be honest. At away games, the fans are singing for the whole 90 minutes. Yeah. And I just picked up on a point what you said, Luke. There are pockets around the stadium. I'm in Bobby Moore lower, and the fans are always at it. And I know on the other side of the stadium near the away end, there's a pocket of fans there that are always at it, always singing, etc. And there are pockets not around, but I get what you're saying. It's not consistent.
Whereas, before I forget,
But on that still, I mean, and on that look as well. But if you rewind yourself back to Upton Park, and I was fortunate enough to sit in two. I chose to sit in two areas that were singing, standing atmosphere, and then sometimes when I took some friends, family, etc. to the game, I moved and I chose to sit in the West Stand or certain parts of the East Stand. there was never the same. You used to sit and look over and think, "Oh God, I wish I was in there."
Yeah,
I wish I was in that part. And there was no
and I
consistency
agree.
at Upton Park either.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of people do forget that.
Do you know
Yeah,
what I think
and
one of the big problems is, though, with the ground now, is that there's too much open space. Sound gets lost. And what's weird about it as well, being a musician, sound travels better in circles. So sound should travel so much nicer in that ground. But because there's so many more fans there, and some of these fans are obviously, and it's, you know, no disrespect to them, but some of them are getting season tickets for the first time. They don't understand what it is to be there on a match day and support the club, and so they're learning. So then this stuff will build, but as quick as it builds,
it'll
gets
take
lost.
time.
It'll
time. The problem is there are 4 stands in the stadium, basically. You know, and whereas, and I get what everyone says that it's not a proper football stadium, because you don't go to any other football stadium, and there's a gap between the Bobby Moore lower, and the East Stand and the West Stand. There's a gap. There's a fucking gap. And it ain't a big gap, but it's a gap, you know. And what you said about, you know, the acoustics. So we'll start singing Bubbles, you know, in the Bobby Moore lower, and then a split second later, you know, we've got fans elsewhere singing it, but we're out of sync because it's travelling. Yeah. It's taking time to travel.
But
you know,
and again, I know I'm interrupting here, but I think I wrote on your Grumble video, Luke, on the comments, that a lot of that ownership blatantly does go to the owners of our club, because we're not. How many clubs around the world, and even more so close to me, Celtic, for example, have created these sections of the stadium. And yeah, okay, you might look at that section sometimes and think, God, that's a bit crazy, but that's sometimes what you want in a stadium. So for me, I wrote in the comment, I'll give people an example of what I was meaning. The club don't pay a lot of money to have that stadium, so they've got money in their pockets. We know they've got money burning a hole in their pockets. So invest a little bit of money, create these little bits of areas the fans can sing, but insensitize them, give them flags, give them scarves. When was the last time you went to a game? I think the last time we went to a game we got given something was Liverpool away last year. It was a Bobby Moore t-shirt. From what I understand, Liverpool were also involved in that. So as West Ham owners, give something back to the fans, create these, bring a bit of confetti into the stadium, generate that atmosphere, give some of the fans a megaphone, give the fans, maybe a megaphone's an exaggeration, but encourage them.
Do you know what though, Ant? Sorry to butt in, but you know, the stadium in fucking Italy that Roma and Lazio share, there's a geezer on a microphone with a fucking drum because they know how much space there is. They need that guy to create the atmosphere. And that might sound stupid, but because of the empty spaces, we might need someone like that in certain sections of the stadium to create the atmosphere.
But the only problem is that they are pretty good teams. And they succeed quite a lot, and they play well. So they're helped by the fact that they've got. I know what you're getting at. I totally know what you're getting at. But could you imagine if, like Mr. Mooney in the open saying, "Come on, West Ham, let's get up you going." If you just seen the fact that Diop's just lumped the ball 40 yards out on Danilo Pellegrini,
but I think
can't cheer for this.
What Dan's trying to say is there's a constant noise
And I think one of the biggest problems with the ground,
it's constant.
And something that I heard a lot said by the Wolves fans, especially, is that there's too much empty space, and it's. There was one fan in particular that I was listening to, and he said that they've made it. They want it to look nice rather than it to, you know, achieve what it needs to, and that's create an atmosphere for the football club. And you know, unfortunately, we might need something like this because we might need something to generate atmosphere to make that ground more intimidating. I know that me and you had this chat, Luke, at the end of the day, and you said there are a couple of games where it's intimidating, but it's not intimidating on a consistent basis. Too often we go over there, we go 1-0 down, and it's dead, and the game's over.
Yeah. But let's not forget. You know, Ant said this before. You know, and we've said this before. You know, amongst us, I've been at the bowling where you could hear a pin drop. You know,
the thing about the bowling though, still, was it was intimidating, even when it was quiet, because it was so close to the pitch. You listen to a lot of footballers, they all said how much they dislike playing in front of the West Ham faithful at the bowling, and that's not. This is not me being nostalgic. Obviously, I didn't want to move from the bowling. I missed the ground. It was more intimidating. Stats don't lie. We've won 14 league games out of a possible 40 at the London Stadium. There's something clinically wrong with that ground. The players look scared to play there. That's my biggest issue with it. The players walk out, and where I sit now, I watch them walk out, and they walk out with a body language like they are they've lost the game already. We effectively, for the past 2 seasons, have played 38 away games because they're that scared to play football at that stadium. I don't know if it's because the fans are more expectant or what, but they do not look comfortable playing in that stadium, and that has got to be rectified if we are going to choose to stay there.
But here's the ironic thing: we've got 9 new players who've never experienced that.
I'm aware of that. Still, but what's the excuse for the last 2 seasons? Because we didn't recruit this.
I don't. I'm not disagreeing. I get the point you're trying to make. But we've got 9 new players who've never experienced the new stadium. So why should they have that same fear? That's
it's obviously
that's what
ingrained. It's obviously ingrained in that squad, and it's obviously
possibly
passing on. Isn't it?
The only one you see as they're coming out of the tunnel who looks up for it is Arnie, because he's doing a Ronaldo jump where he leaps up, cuts his knees into his chest, and looks absolutely up for it. But you look at the rest of them, and it's like they're just out for an experience sort of thing. It's just like and they line up, and you think, and you hear the bubbles go, you hear the referee blow whistle, the ball goes out, and you kind of expect the players to start running around and rushing and looking excited and seeing pumped up and adrenaline going. But they look as if they're just going, right, what did he say in the dressing room 2 minutes ago?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, shit. And it's like, and and you go, I watch it. I watch it every single week. I watch it. Do you know what it is? I've got no sympathy for professional footballers, especially Premier League footballers, and from 1 week to the next, at the end of the game, I look at the players and I go, "Oh, you're a twat this week. I don't like Creswell. I don't like Zabala. I don't like, not naming any players in particular, but I look at these players and I go, I'm fed up with you. Just I don't care if you're going to play for the team again." When it comes to match day and I'm seeing a team name read out, let's go number 21 or Bono, number 10, Lansing, whoever it is. When they read the names out, I cheer after every name, like all the supporters do, going, right, this game will turn up. This game will change it. After for the last 2 seasons, it doesn't matter what game it is. It might. I go, right, this will be the one that changes, and it fuck all happens.
Here's an interesting.
Before you go, still, and you wanted to say something a minute ago, mate. You jump in now.
It was about the stadium, so I don't know if we want to go back to that. To be honest,
still relevant.
Yeah. You see, we've got a lot of we've got social media. We've got a lot of youthful people on social media with really strong opinions. They've got a lot of energy, and if you're the owners of West Ham, you'd be seeing that as an opportunity. That's the way I would look at it. That's my business mindset going like, okay, we've got a lot of young people that have got season tickets for West Ham. They're craving an atmosphere, so let's give them the atmosphere without having to spend a lot of money. Like I said, create that little singing section, have it monitored by security, etc. Allow them to do that. Allow them to create that atmosphere, because they're the ones that are going to sing solidly for 90 minutes through time. It's just for me. And we've got the stadium. We've got no choice in the matter, but there is no ifs or buts about it that our owners, and I think I wrote a comment in our WhatsApp group last night, that they've lost the love, the care about West Ham. Their heads have gone well over that. It's just all about the money. They're either waiting for us to be able to buy the stadium so then they can sell on and let someone else do it. We're stuck with that, and I think that has an impact probably on the players. Like what you said, look, when they come out, they're not getting maybe that vibe from the fans. They're maybe not getting that whole kind of intensity. Yeah, Dan, you made a valid point. We were at Upton Park. The stadium was, on top of you. It had that vibe. You know what I mean? Even without the fans singing. Yeah. And now you come to Olympic Park, like you said, it's very open. But if you've got that section maybe of 3,000 or 4,000 fans jumping up and down, chucking confetti, all that sort of stuff, that's going to be reasonably intimidating. And the players will look at that and get a buzz off it. It's an opportunity for the owners.
There is so much space as well, because obviously my season ticket this year, I've got Club London as part of my ticket. I've taken on my father-in-law's because he can't go anymore. And when we talk about space, there is some fucking space between the seats. You could stick another seat in there. It's ridiculous. There's so much empty space. It's just, and that is the biggest problem. Is there is just so much room there, and it all needs to be closed in. They've got to put things in place. At the end of the day, like as far as the move and the stadium and all this stuff, the ball. I don't want to come on here and be, going on another one of these rants where we fuck the ball over, because we can't. They spent £100 million this summer. They brought in a proper manager. They've done everything that the fans asked them to do, right? But at the end of the day, the blame has to come to them where the stadium's concerned. And as a result of us moving, it's changed completely changed
Dan,
the ethos and
But on that, for me, and this is me not talking out of turn and jumping on a bandwagon, I'm still got a lot of blame towards the owners. I don't give two shits if they've spent £100 million. It's the minimum requirement that they needed to do. And that's like, and I mean that like on a scale of 1 to 100, I accept that for 1%. They need to give me 99% more for everything else at the club. And that's when I start to even remotely think, I look at that board and think, because I sometimes think a lot of their reactions are knee-jerk reactions. It's always knee-jerk reactions to appease the fans because we're fickle fans. We realise that £100 million, we're like, oh yeah, and they're fucking right. I'm sorry guys, I'm sorry for going on a rant here, but they're what they've done is taken a lot of the shit away from them and put it right on us as the West Ham fans.
They've reversed it completely.
Right.
But the interesting thing, we talked about, when the players are called out and they're coming on the pitch, maybe there's an awful lot of players in the team at the moment that fans aren't excited about. I remember, when at the bowling, when we had the team names being called out, when the likes of Di Canio were called out, when the likes of, dare I say it, Pyatt was called out, etc., people would cheer. They'd be fucking cheered. They'd be like, yeah. And now we're reading out the team news, and the only person that we're currently only excited about is Arnie.
Because he gives a shit.
And because he gives a shit. And there's a big cheer when his name comes up, but everyone else, and you look around you and they go, Creswell, yeah, a little clap. So-and-so, yeah, a little clap. There's not that. We're not buzzed up from the minute that the fucking team's announced.
The biggest point, just to come back to what Ant was saying though, my point I was trying to make, Ant, was that the board are not free of blame. I'm still anti-board, but they can't take the blame for what's happening on the pitch now because they put their money where their mouth is. They brought in the manager. They can still take the blame for all the shit going on off the pitch. The stadium is the one they can take the biggest blame for because it's changed the ethos of the club. It's changed that club completely. We were a working man's club, and we're not anymore. You got too many fair weather fans there, too many tourists there. Fuck me, mate. And Luke wants me to bring this up. I got told as part of my season ticket I can't wear fucking trainers, shorts, and a hat to a game. They're telling me what I can fucking wear at the stadium now. That's bollocks. I'm sorry. They've got to take the blame for that. You tell me I'm going to turn up in the club colours. And if you tell me I've got to wear a coloured shirt, 2 fingers to you, you can have the season ticket, but you can fucking refund it. I don't give a shit. Yeah. They can still take the blame for all that, but they cannot take the blame for what's going on that pitch. Yes, well, it's a short-term option. They've done it just this summer, but they can't.
Yeah, I get that, but maybe an argument to that whole process is the expectation of a West Ham fan right now is 3 seasons ahead of what they promised us 3 seasons ago. And we've only been given what we were told 3 seasons ago now. So our expectations are fucking well ahead of what they should be. So in my opinion, if we're 3 seasons ago and we invest £100 million in the squad, we would by no means be in the situation we're in right now. Because we would have progressed, we would have made the mistakes in the transfer window. We made fucking mistakes in the transfer window. We spent £30 million and brought in 12 players, Tors, Nordvitz, who were shit, and they've gone. But now we've spent £100 million. We're not the only club that has spent that money. Crystal Palace has spent a big amount of money. Wolverhampton has spent that big amount of money. We had the opportunity to progress as a squad, as a team, to progress moving forward. And 3 years from the moment they promised that money initially, we probably would be progressing. And therefore, in my opinion, my original guesstimate for us to finish 5th in the league would be realistic and not a fucking dream. Sorry.
No, I can't disagree with what you're saying, but the same thing. We all know why they weren't spending money. They were waiting for this whole shit with the fucking LDCC for them to go bankrupt so they could buy the ground. We all know that why this has happened, and they've obviously been tipped off because it's fucking rife in the news that they're going to go bust and they're going to get the stadium on the cheap. This is what they've been waiting for. I think they've spent £100 million when they didn't really want to. I think they would have probably if they didn't have the shit. The manager forced that completely. It was the grader manager they brought in as forced it.
I remember during the summer we were all talking about, do you think the money's being spent and the manager's in, Pellegrini's in because of a fan protest last season, and I remember saying, I don't think it's only that. But I just wonder how much of it did influence. And, given that the stadium will soon be up for sale, and given that they're going to obviously buy it, I wonder if they really wanted to spend 100 million in the pre-season.
Of course they did.
I think if things didn't go as badly as they did last season, I think they would have just, suffered it out. They would have, you said, Anne, we're 3 seasons behind.
Moyes would have still been in charge.
Yeah, well, Moyes could have still been in charge, and he would have been given about 30 million to spend.
Had the Burnley game not happened, Moyes would be in charge. I'm telling you that now. Had Burnley not happened, and all the unrest last season had happened, Moyes would still be in charge, and they probably would have spent about 30 million this summer.
Yeah. And Tony Cottee would be happy.
I'm disappointed at Cottee because he's one of the people that was going on about invest. This board, blah blah blah, and the board have. I'm not standing up for the board, but the board have done what everyone wanted, and now Cottee's turning around and going, Moyes should have stayed. That's a bit.
Do you know what it is? I'm gonna go off tangent here a little bit, right? Tony Cottee, I saw that interview. I listened to the interview, right? And Tony Cottee to me just sounded like one of your typical nowadays fans who's just pissed off that the old day ain't like the old days at Upton Park. Now, I agree with him to a massive point. I'm not saying that's a bad thing to be, because I'm slowly, like myself, starting to come back to that. And it's funny because I went to this pie and mash shop in Loughton on the weekend with a friend of mine I went to the game with. And just the I'm going to use a Mickey Flanagan word here, but just the ambience of being around that sort of scenario, you realise that the thing with Upton Park is this is what people don't seem to realise very much, right? It wasn't just the ground.
Nope.
It wasn't just
everything around it, yeah.
It was everything around it. People go, oh, you could hear a pin drop. It wasn't about that, mate. It wasn't about that. It was about the pie and mash. It was about being around the East London. That it was a traditional ground. It had the castle in front. There was something about it that you felt like this is West Ham. And now that's kind of going. And this is something I'm going to get onto now. I've been trying to kind of get it. I was going to try and bring it later, but I want to do it now. When you get these half-time interviews with ex-players like Steve Lomas recently and Jack Collis and all the rest of it, right, you can kind of tell that they're not really behind the stadium. And I could be wrong, but in my opinion, when I listen to them talk, they're always trying to find positives, going, well, hopefully it'll get better. It's a modern stadium. It follows the Premier League football. But anytime you kind of listen to, like you say, Dan, when what was that like Upton Park? Oh, Upton Park was intimidated. Upton Park was this. What was that? They haven't obviously got a chance to talk about the Olympic Stadium because we haven't had the good vibe. We haven't had the good times that we did every now and then at Upton Park. But as I say, just before I finish, I've got to get this out before I forget. Can someone just wring the creator's neck who had the idea to do halftime entertainment, right? I very rarely sit down and watch halftime entertainment. I'm normally getting a beer or a chicken burger, whatever you want to call it, right? I sat with my old man and watched, with respect to him, he's probably a really nice lad, but the young lads try and beat the mascot at pressing buttons on a board. You couldn't even see what he was doing because he had his back to the camera. And that is apparently going to be the halftime entertainment for every single game this season. You're probably going to see a lot more empty seats in the stadium if it happens because people are just going to sit down on the deck because of that. It was honestly, it was embarrassing, and it actually summed up. That's what pissed me off even more as well. It's only a little thing, and that pissed me off even more as well. But yeah, Tony Cottee is one of many people who I guarantee you, if you got those ex-players in a room where there's no cameras, there's no one, there's no public opinion about, they will tell you exactly saying this stadium is all right. It pretty sums up what football's becoming, where it's a big dome, we'll get a lot more fans in, make it a bit more media friendly. But fundamentally, as a football stadium, it's not doing what Upton Park did. And unfortunately, the Upton Park team of West Ham didn't achieve very much. It's looked at it, West Ham in a traditional old ground Upton Park. We weren't going to win every game, but we're still behind them, still intimidating. But I guarantee you, every single ex-player's gone, yeah, but right, Upton Park.
The whole match day experience the whole match day experience was different. This, I might as well talk about it now that we're kind of on this topic.
Yeah.
I wanted to. This was something I did want to bring to people's attention because in our group chat, you do all come down on me quite a bit for talking about the bowling a lot. But at the end of the day, I was so anti-London Stadium. I did not want it to happen. I wanted to stay at the Bowl-In. All of my football memories were at the Bowl-In. But the thing about the Bowl-In, it ain't just the ground. It was more than that for me. The whole match day experience was so different. You got off the train at Upton Park, you come out the station, straight away the butterflies are in your stomach because all the vendors are there. All the people are up and down. There's a buzz about the place. You go in the pubs, you go in your favourite pubs. You know, they're all famous for their own little reasons. You go round, you can go get your pie and mash. It was so different. And when you got to the ground, you looked at the stadium, there was just something, there was an aura about it. I always went through gate 14 because it's my lucky number. Like, I don't have any traditions like that anymore.
Yeah.
There's no fucking traditions at all.
No.
The one thing I will say is, since Stell said to us about the supporters club, is I have no choice but to go into Stratford because of where I come in from. But I go to the supporters club now, and I will say, since we've been doing that, it has improved my experience enough. But there's nothing about the ground, and there's nothing around the ground that excites
mate,
me. It doesn't get me up for it.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to accept the fact that it's going to take a generation for people to feel about the London Stadium as we used to feel about the Bowl-In. You know,
I don't think it's ever going to be. I don't think it's ever going to be still.
Well,
I'll give you reasons why. But
well, hang on a minute. If the owners buy the stadium, I think their next obligation is that they'll change it to become a football stadium.
They've got no choice.
That's what. Yeah, they've got no choice, and that's what they're going to have to do. That will start improving things. But I went to the Bowl-In my first time when I was 14. That's 40 years ago. You know, so I know what you guys are saying. You know, and I was in two minds about the old stadium, and I remember the plans that were in place to extend the Bowl-In. You know, when we could have ended up having around 45,000 seat stadium, and then it got ditched. You know, so I know all the things about the Bowl-In, about the atmosphere and the lead up. You know, and I used to take my daughter to the Bowl-In. She used to love going there. She hates going to the new stadium. She's only been a couple of times.
She looked bored at the weekend, mate.
Yeah, she looked bored at the weekend. And even she sort of implied, you could have brought me to a more interesting game, Dad. You know, and but at the Bowl-In we used to go. If we got beat, she was like, oh well, never mind. You know, but so I get it, I get that, but it's going to take some changes to the stadium, which the owners have to do, and it's going to take a generation, you know, of fans going to this new stadium before they start feeling anything remotely like the Bowl-In. It's just the way it is.
Well, sorry, Ant, go on.
I was just going to say, we've had quite a lot of YouTube comments, so let me just get in with some of the people's comments just in relation to everything that's been mentioned. So we've got the famous Nigel Cann from More Than Just a Podcast on. Also,
hi, Nigel.
He also frequents the supporters club. So he's stating that he thinks we'll be lucky to get 4 points in October. Some of the fans who don't get to the games are saying every time you watch Match of the Day, it seems that every other team puts a load of effort in except us. That's from Forever Blowing Bubbles. Yeah. Peter Steggs, he was in the main stand and had 4 Wolves fans sitting behind him. It's an absolute joke. No way you can get an atmosphere there. We went back to him and saying, 4 Wolves fans, really? And he went, yep, in the main stand, block 206, crazy. So he's obviously making a big point about opposition fans sitting in the home end. Nigel comes back in saying, December makes or breaks for us, no top 6 team except Watford. If then, we need to kick on, but confidence could be shot by then, which is true, it could be. Forever Blowing Bubbles is saying, I've been to games when we've fallen behind and the crowd have got up and sang, which gets West Ham going, but also it doesn't happen anymore. I'm just trying to slip through some more. Obviously, there's some jokey ones about Luke's webcam, so it's a lot brighter. He's got a new light bulb, so well done, Luke.
It's my phone, guys. It's not a laptop anymore. It's my phone, luckily enough. But still, Anton's trying to give me a light box to try and make the face a lot more lighter, which it might be too light. It might be not gone from too dark and too orange to too light. I can't win in this game, can I?
A few people have commented on the singing sections. I think they quite like the idea of that, so that's good. Nigel's come back in saying the biggest change that needs to happen is owners need to go. Those of us that hate them lose that hate straight away, and we will all unite behind new owners. Current owners are too tainted now. Nigel, me personally, I do agree with you on that personally, but we'll see. So just lastly, they're coming down to the end of it. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else there. People are saying if Pellegrini was to go, which I don't think will happen and shouldn't happen, we should bring in Arsene Wenger. There's quite a few comments on that actually, but I think that's quite.
I'm not sure. But anyway,
should we talk? Should we go on about that?
We'll
talk about the manager.
Pellegrini in a minute. I just want to make one more point before we do, and the only point I want to make, the last one I want to make about the stadium is that, in my personal opinion, it is an easy away day for teams because it's not scary and because our team is so nervous to play there. 14 wins in 40 games in the league, right? Just let that sink in 2 seasons, right? It's an easy away day, and I think that a lot of teams are starting to look at it like that as well, and that's one of the problems. And this is why, like you say, still the ground has got to be bought. It's got to be redeveloped. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up having to go rent Wembley or ground share because I think that's
it's being done.
I think that's how much work needs doing. But there's a lot of problems. There's a lot of problems.
Mixed opinion again coming in on the chat saying that people are actually saying that some West Ham owners will buy the stadium. Some are saying West Ham owners don't want to buy the stadium. They want to just run it, but they don't want to own it. Some people are saying we're probably stuck with the owners for another 4 or 5 years, and that could be down to the age situation as well.
Can I just one final point on the stadium. Still, you were saying it needs to give time to feel like eventually feel like a home.
Yeah.
The reason why I say this, certain reasons why it will never be like that unless football itself changes. Little things like when you walk up to the stadium, just as you're walking on to the grounds to walk up to the walkway, you have things like half and half scarves. There's half and half scarves.
Oh mate, you had that at the bowling, mate. Don't be surprised by that.
I'm saying if you want that emphasis to change, that won't change because I'm not a violent person, but even I want to scrunch up into a ball and stick up their arse and shut them up.
Look, it winds me up. It winds one of our friends up, Julie, who comes to a lot of games, and if she ever sees anyone in a half and half, she just wants to throttle them, But they used to sell half and halves in.
Just a simple yes or no from you three, and we'll offer this one out to the chat as well. But a lot of people come in from the Stratford end, and you have to walk up to the ground. And like I was saying, one of the big things about the bowling was that walk to the ground felt special.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was because of the pubs and because of the hustle and bustle and the vendors and all the rest of it. Do you think, just a simple yes or no, that the match day experience could be improved if we could have vendors along that fucking bit of road?
Yeah.
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 Yes, but only a bit.
But it just feel a bit more. But don't you feel like that 10 minutes? But don't you feel like that 10 minutes would feel a bit more like you were off to the football? Because at the moment,
the interesting thing is they close off all the roads around there. They've got to close them all off. Because the number of people. And so why not allow vendors to sort of like line up around there? No, there's no reason why not. Dan,
there's a question directed to you because you mentioned about the redevelopment. Who pays for that redevelopment?
Well, the board would have to pay for it, wouldn't they? Because if
they're categorically stating, and I'll put the name out there, Nigel was categorically stating that they will not do that.
Well, yeah,
if they buy it,
surprised, but they would have to be the ones. If they buy it, it's up to them.
And if they were to purchase it, how much do we realistically think is going to cost to redevelop that stadium, and will they invest that money? I can't see it.
It will cost more to redevelop it than it will them to buy it, just because of the state that the company currently runs it is in. They will get it for peanuts, and they were waiting for this to happen. But it will cost more to redevelop it, without a shadow of a doubt. Matt has spoken to us on many of occasions about his dad used to work for the local council, and that for the seats to be pulled closer, the ground needs to be lowered, but they can't physically do that because of the way the water mains run. So it needs such a massive job done to it, which is why I think we would have to leave the stadium and go and ground share because of how big the redevelopment would be. But anyway, let's move on from the stadium because my head's going to explode if we carry on.
I might talk about it more towards the end as well, just because I remember something and I just want to piss you off anyway.
Okay, you do that after I've drunk some bleach. But
yeah.
let's talk Pellegrini. All right. I went there. But let's talk Pellegrini. All right. We were all. I would say the majority of the West Ham faithful were excited when he come in. He's a former league-winning manager. He's done pretty well wherever he's managed in his career as well. 4 games in, 4 losses, 10 goals conceded. He's known for being an attacking manager, but we are struggling just as much up top. Are we worried, boys? And where does he go from here? I'm going to offer that to you first, still.
I said earlier I'm not worried. But the interesting thing about all these players we bought, we said earlier about defence, we're still leaking goals. Actually, the irony is Fabianski looks good, a good purchase, and I didn't think he would be, but he's proved me wrong. And Diop, in the last couple of games he's played, has looked pretty bloody excellent.
Yeah, he was probably the best player against Wolves.
Yeah,
I would say.
And Balbuena's coming into his own. He's beginning to come into his own. Cresswell's only just come back, so he needs a bit of time. God knows what's happening with Fredericks. He has a hot game, a cold game. Zabaleta can walk in and it'll probably be better 1 week, and Fredericks will then come back and have a great. Fredericks looked really good.
I'm not going to interrupt you completely here still, but I think Fredericks is the Masuaku of the right backs. I think Fredericks is going to be better as a wing back than an actual right back.
He might well be. Yeah. But what I wanted to touch on is, we're not scoring goals and we're still leaking goals, which means to me we ain't got it right in midfield yet. And I think that's the biggest concern I've got is our midfield. And we're all slagging Sanchez off. Oh my God, he's a pile of shit. Why are we getting him in? I think he's been our best midfielder, by quite a distance, to be honest. No, mate, I'm sorry to say, he's playing.
No, it's just that goal, just that last.
Yeah,
I know. Mate, but it's one of them things, right? The biggest problem with that goal was the fact the free kick was taken short. You just fucking lumped that with 30 seconds to go. A short free kick into it.
Scaloni against Liverpool.
It was a terrible mistake, and it really did cost us. But we've been having a banter about what makes a defensive midfielder throughout the summer. Sanchez is a defensive midfielder. He knows how to play that position, whereas I don't think and most of our other midfielders do. And I think maybe we need Pellegrini needs to maybe be a bit brave and drop Wiltshire and play someone else alongside Sanchez. Put him on the bench.
Can I just jump on that still for 2 minutes?
Yeah.
In the second half, Pellegrini made the substitution, brought Yarmolenko on for, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For the next 10 minutes was when we seen the most exciting football in that game. That was the moment when you started seeing back flicks, one-touch, ticky-tack football, when Arnautovic Yarmolenko had the back heel chance to shoot on goal.
Yeah.
And then Pellegrini brought Wilshere off. And he was just...
I didn't get that.
It was as if like Yarmolenko brought that spark that Wilshere's been looking for. And honestly, and it might be a big, bold statement I'm about to make here, but I honestly think a player with Yarmolenko's ability, for what he's done, come on off as a sub, people always go on about his fitness levels. He doesn't need to have the fitness levels. He is a clever footballer.
Yeah.
He can create from nothing, and he looks exciting. And I honestly believe when he can start a game, that we might start to see a little bit of a difference West Ham midfield.
And you may be right, and maybe that's what Wiltshire needs.
Apparently, though, West Ham are questioning paying £18 million for him, according to Talkshite, the cunts.
Well,
clickbait
Dan,
anyone? Clickbait from Talkshite?
So Dan, just on that for the fans, just for the fans on that fucking really pissed me off today, because I fell for it. I clicked into it and I read the whole fucking article, and it really pissed me off. And it's just a guy who's commenting from the Ukraine making that words up in the West Ham mouth. I mean, it's just like, but this is the prime example of the media. They're jumping onto West Ham because we are everyone's fucking dream and media's dream right now. You literally can choose a story, run it, and if it's wrong, you'll get so many clicks on it, and it's just winding me up. And honestly, sorry.
Yeah. I said before the start of the season that Yarmolenko excited me. Out of all the signings we got, he was the one that looked like he was gonna excite me most, and I stick to that. And I'm hoping it's only because he's not match fit that he ain't started a game yet, apart from the cup game, because I think as soon as he starts playing from the start, maybe you're right, you guys. Maybe that's what will make Wiltshire spark. But Wiltshire ain't sparking at the moment.
No.
And I don't think he's got the players around him that could do it. But it also makes us a bit lightweight in the middle of the park as well. So until he has the players to make him spark, put someone else in. I want to see Obiang play alongside Sanchez. I want to see Rice play alongside Sanchez.
Oh, I don't.
No, I don't know.
Rice should be at the back. He's a centre back. He's not a midfielder. He's proved that he's not a midfielder. He's done an all right job in there when he's been asked to, but he is a centre back, and that's where we should be developing. He's 19 years of age. Just to keep developing him at the position that he's
alongside
best at. Alongside
Diop.
I would love to see Diop and Rice at centre back. Two youngsters, it's fucking exciting. It's so exciting. I think they'd complement each other as well. I was so impressed.
Yeah.
So impressed with Diop against Wolves. Really, really.
I was.
I do agree with you on the Declan Rice. I mean, you've just got to go back to last year when he dominated Aguero. There's not many young players that can travel to the Etihad under that pressure. And even though we just got beat, and he absolutely dominated the game in the centre half position. Yeah, he may be a natural midfielder, but I think maybe West Ham are trying so hard. They're trying overly hard to try and make him into that.
Yeah. And
now we're falling back into that routine of going, well, if he's not going to fit in there, we're going to drop him, and he's not going to get selected.
It's an odd situation as well with him. Runner up for Hammer of the Year, and now he's sitting on the bench. Doesn't make sense. He's clearly got some class about him. He's a young player. You need to develop him. He needs game time. Rice is one of them that's actually come through who looks a bit exciting. How many times have we had a player come through and we're all like, oh yeah, he could be the next big thing, and then he gets shipped off on loan to Charlton, or he gets sold to some second division French team. It's just the way that it is. But yet we've got one who is, I hate to say it, but he's one of our own. And he's just chilling on the bench because we're trying this, that and the other. We're trying to make sure we make space for all the signings that we've made, But on the subject of signings, what have we made of the new signings to this point? I'll throw that out to you first, Luke. Maybe just give me an opinion on the one you've been most impressed with and the one you've been least impressed with.
Well, first of all, I just want to say about Yarmolenko, as previously stated, we had a good 5 minutes in the second half against Wolves where we looked like, okay, we're actually going to go for it. We woke it up now. We're going to start playing football. But I've lost count in the amount of times that me and all the other supporters around us were frustrated that we looked like we were playing like the old Arsenal. We were trying to walk the ball in. So there was countless times where they get the ball right hand side. They were delaying shooting and trying to take it past 1 too many Wolves players and either sky over the bar or they get tackled. It's like I get the whole trying to spark some movement. I try getting the whole energy, but you haven't got the time to do that in the Premier League. You need to hit the button, boom, that's it, goal, move on. And after a while, it was like there was a point where Yarmolenko got the ball in the middle and he went from the right hand side to the left hand side. And he went, oh shit, I've gone too far here. Closed down by a Wolves player, had to go back to the goalkeeper, which then caused the fans to boo. Because like, oh, here we go, back to the goalkeeper from a position where we've gone forward. And then their players' heads dropped because the ball went out, and it was the same old story. So I mean, Yarmolenko could have potential to be a very, very good player. But like I said previously, before we even come onto the show tonight, lads, I said in the WhatsApp group, whatever, it's deflating to have all these players, and yet they still look just as clueless as the other lot have for the last 2 years. Pellegrini, to me, looks, to be honest with you, clueless so far on the sidelines. I didn't get the Wilshere Obiang substitution at all. Someone said to me, needs more legs, but we weren't even that deep into the second half for that to happen. I'm being told by certain fans as well as my own family that Wilshere's legs are gone. That's why we've got him for free from Arsenal. I don't agree with that either at all. I think he's been one of our best midfielders so far. But if you're talking,
I was going to say that. Yeah,
it's just but he has the best footwork, best technical ability to just in a short space of time, boom, boom, boom. Right, I'm out now. Where's the pass? And against Wolves, there was no one there for him to pass to. So again, he was trying to take it on too long, probably get tackled, get the ball away. Back to your subject about signings, Dan. I know we're off the cuff a little bit there. I was probably most impressed with the fact that we eventually got Anderson for 40 million. And I thought, here we are. This player is going to be dog's bollocks. Going to show us all that we don't need, to keep going about Pyatt, who was the world-class player that we wanted. He's going to come in and he's going to do this, that and the other. and he looks like the most luxury player any team could ever have. So he gets back and tries to defend a little bit, but fundamentally he just looks completely out of sorts. I've got to the point now where I'm actually not impressed by any of the new signings that much, to be honest with you. And I want to see more of our old signings. I want to see Masuaku play on the left wing. I want to see Antonio played in a free role, because for me that was when he played his best football at West Ham, when he didn't have much responsibility and he could just come back and do what he wanted. The worst thing that people are saying now is that how much we miss Lanzini. With all due respect, Lanzini ain't here. We've got 7 to 10 new signings, all costing over 100 million. We shouldn't have to worry about Lanzini. And this is going to be another situation where we're rushing a player back because we're missing him too much. And I guarantee he gets injured within the first 2 months of coming back, because we rushed him back because we need him. We need to create a spark in the middle. Got players like Jack Wilshere, done at Arsenal for years. Why can't we go?
Then,
now we need to step out ourselves.
Then if Wiltshire's going to, I mean, I kind of mentioned, that I was one that said that it would be wonderful if we had Lanzini in this team.
I'm not denying it would be.
It would make things work. But if Wiltshire's that type of creative player, then perhaps we should be moving him further forward.
No.
Stick out.
For me, he's not a 10. He has far more effect on the game from a deeper position.
He's not a 10, mate. But at the moment, it's just not work. It's not. It's just not happening for him.
That's not me saying that like we don't miss Lanzini, because I think the biggest problem with the squad going forward is that we do lack a natural number 10, and that's exactly what Lanzini is.
Yeah.
I just don't.
And that's what Lanzini is.
And at the moment, we're just trying to plug the gap with this player, that player. It's a painful situation at the moment.
On that note, with all due respect, right? People are saying constantly that, Pellegrini doesn't know his strongest side yet. We have signed almost 2 squads worth of players. So it means now we've got a squad worth of players. So we nearly have 2 different teams we could particularly play. I want to ask them fans who are saying Pellegrini doesn't know his full starting lineup. If you ask the average fan, if you ask any fan on a given match day now this season, since we signed all them players, right, I guarantee you none of them would pick you the same team.
Exactly.
None of them would
it's
go.
So true.
He's got to play. He's got to play. Everyone would go. Well, I'd like to see T up front. So I'd like to see Chica play. Oh no, he can't play Chica play because he's got the wrong one man right up front. I'd like to see Antonio play because he's quite robust. He's got the strength about him. But then when Yarmolenko fit in, Snodgrass has started well this year. Snodgrass is the working man's winger. He puts a good ball in. I don't want him in. I want someone else in. He's a constant. The only ones you can say good to start definitely are players like Creswell, because he's basically the only left back we've got. People are going to want Zabaleta for experience, but then they want Fredericks for his pace. So it's a constant, 3 at the back suddenly with Ogbonna in. But some people go, oh no, I don't want 2 at the back because I want Balbuena and Diop at the back.
Biggest problem
I want Rice at the back because Rice is a better thing.
The biggest problem we've got as well is we can't blame the amount of new signings that joined, because Fulham did exactly
the same thing.
It's a great
fucking thing.
Fulham did exactly the same thing, and their players have hit the ground running. Fuck me. Seri, the player we were linked with, cannon 25-yard shot in the other week. Schürrle's got 3 in fucking 4 games. Like, they've done well. They've bought the same amount of players as us, spent as much money as us, and they're managing to do it. So the question has to be asked, why the fuck ain't we? And unfortunately, the buck has to, stop at the
Pellegrini.
It has to. He's the one that brought these players in. He's the one that needs to get them playing. I am not going to sit here and say I want him sacked, because I'm not. It's 4 games and we can't hit the panic button yet. We're not Donald Trump at the end of the day. It needs time. It needs time. But the Premier League, you're not afforded that much time. And with the run of games we've got in the next 5, it is a massive concern.
How much time, Dan? How much time, Dan?
Well, you have to give anyone. You have 10 games. You have to. Me and Stel had this conversation at the sports club at the Wolves game. You've got to give it 10 games before you hit that panic button. But he has got to get something fucking going, because he ain't good enough at the moment. Shipping goals for fun and not really doing much up top.
I agree. That's why I'm panicking. And I know it's easy to say I'm not panicking. Shouldn't panic. But I think Pellegrini's a smart enough manager to get it right. I'm going to give him that much credit, that he's a smart enough manager to get it right. And Luke, you're absolutely right. He doesn't know his best 11, and I bet when he does have all players fit, you're going to see even more changes. So for the next sort of couple of months, you'll see him play similar players. But then as soon as Lanzini comes back or another player comes back, I bet they'll play a big role as well. Go on.
Yeah, can I just ask you, boys? I take it you've all played football for in the past, yourselves, non-league, whatever, right? They're using this thing where they say players have to gel, right? They're saying the players have got time to learn each other's game, work with each other, right? Just asking all of you a question. You can all come in, chirp in, whatever, right? In your footballing career, no matter what level you played and whatever, right? Did you ever think to yourself, I can't play with this guy because I don't know how he's going to work with me. I don't know how he's going to compliment me. Do you know what? I can't run 5 yards that way because I don't know if he's going to pass me that way. You get on with it. You learn off the cuff like that because you know genuinely what you have to do in a football match, right? I'm not panicking still. I'm deflated. I'm depressed. I'm one of these fans who might be in a minority, but it's now like, for fuck's sake. Same old shit once again.
Yeah.
And
I think there was.
I said it in my rant on the video. I said it, and I'm going to say it again now. Right? These are not children. Yeah. These are not retards. These are not. We're supposed to use that word, but these are not people who suffer from can't work people that way. But maybe they can. I don't know about it. But genuinely, as a grown man, as a grown person on a lot of money, on a millionaire wage packet, right? If you can't snap your fingers, if you can't wake up and go, or at least one of them go, right, mate, move up there, you move there, you pass him, you pass there, as a captain maybe should be. So maybe Noble in the middle when he's on the field, or Arnie up front when he's up there, should be going, boom, 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 right, you run here, you run there, right? There's 11 players on the field, right? There's a language barrier, okay, maybe they'll speak different languages, but football is one word, so that's not an excuse for me. Sorry,
you've just made an interesting point, Luke, about there being a natural leader out there. And I've mentioned this before, not just this season, but in previous seasons, where I've suggested, I don't want to get beaten up for this because it's Mr. West Ham, etc. But I've suggested Mr. Mark Noble he's Mr. West Ham, but that doesn't necessarily make him the best player to be the captain. And and I suggested in past seasons maybe that burden has been too much for him, because Noble can scream and shout and all that, but I really don't see him as a really. When I think of captains,
he did a really good. He did a really good Koyati impression against Bournemouth, though.
Well, mate.
Yeah. That's leading by example, isn't it? Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And he released a really good statement after. After the first game,
our season starts next week or whatever.
Off, mate, it should start from game one.
Exactly, but also, Arnie, I've also never agreed to having a striker or a keeper as a captain. And I know it's worked a few times. There are a few exceptions to the rule, but in general, I don't like that. It should be someone who's a defender or a midfielder, but who commands that position, and people look up to him and go, what now, boss? What do we do now? You're the boss on the pitch. What now? Noble, I'm afraid to say, Noble's a fighter. No, we all know that. He'll put his heart into it, etc., etc. But it doesn't necessarily G up everyone else, I'm afraid. He's not.
The trouble is, we need 38 games a season out of him, not just the London Derby.
Not just not the London derbies, exactly.
This is the problem.
Exactly. The thing is with Arnie, right? With as much as I love him to pieces, right? He has got that sulk on him.
He's a broody bastard.
Right? That's the thing. But fundamentally, there's the thing with Noble. Quickly, the thing with Mark Noble, right? He got the captain's armband because he was a local boy and the fans could get behind him. And he was a fan. He was almost like he's one of us on the field, right? He's one of us. But to be a captain, you have to obviously have leadership qualities. Now, what I'm saying is when you got someone when you watch Noble, right, he's as down and ducks as the rest of the players when we conceded a goal. Unfortunately, for the last 2 seasons, he's the most moodiest one out of all of them. If you look at his face, there we go again. You don't need that from a captain, especially someone who's loaded club.
But I would say in argument to that, and maybe you're only really suggesting the last 2 seasons, but Noble has been the longest serving at our club currently, and he. Maybe over the last 2 seasons he's not been fit enough to wear the shirt or the captain's armband, but for years, plenty of years before that, in my opinion, he was the right guy. and he did have that G up. But yeah, no, I agree with you. Like in terms of moving forward, and still, I completely agree with you. It does not need to be Arnautovic. It doesn't need to be a forward-thinking player. It needs to be someone at the back. In my opinion, it's always a defender. And I can see from the early, watching Diop play that I think eventually, if he keeps playing and doing what he does, he could be that
a leader.
guy.
Yeah.
But
didn't he captain the under-21's French team or something like that?
He's captain France at every level, but obviously senior level.
He has.
Oh, at every level.
Yeah.
But his biggest issue is his language barrier, because if you've seen him after the cup game, he came live on the TV and he literally just repeated the same comment 3 or 4 times. So up until he gets the language barrier, I can see him in the future being our relevant, great captain at the back. He's got that definitely.
It's an interesting conversation that you've brought up here about leaders, though, because I do think that is one of the biggest problems that the team has. There isn't enough natural
we're lacking
leaders
it. We're lacking
in the team, and we're lacking in that. And I think that especially hurts us at home when you really need someone. There was
that's when you need.
Go on, still.
Go on, mate. No, sorry. Go on, mate.
So something that really jumped out at me with the Wolves game was that every time something didn't work, they were all looking at the man next to them.
Yeah.
Why didn't you fucking do that? Why didn't you sort that out? Why are you not pass the ball to me? And do you know the biggest concern as well is Pellegrini was just sat in his chair. Not once was he getting the lads up for it.
That's where someone like Zabaleta comes in. Who is a bit of
better say that. Yeah.
You can see him. When he plays, but the trouble is Zabaleta ain't going to play that many games. Interestingly, I don't think Mark Noble's going to play that many games this season as a starter. I think he will be more of a sub than he will be a starter once the team sort of gets all settled and Pellegrini does decide on his first 11. So that means there aren't any leaders on the pitch. Got a lot of flair players. Doing tacky, but
can I just want to interrupt. I want to clear out some of the YouTube comments. There's quite a few there, so let's go for a quick round robin of that. People are saying Sanchez is bang average. Declan Rice has made more mistakes at centre half last season than any of the others. Here we are. Peter Steggs has said Yarmolenko's quality. He needs to get fitter, but him and Arnie could be good. A lot of other people are agreeing with that. Yarmolenko needs to learn about the Premier League, but they can see him coming good. So everyone seems to be quite excited about him. People are disappointed in Anderson so far. Most impressed player is Fabianski. Everyone's really impressed with him. Quite a few comments on him. People are slagging off Antonio. People are saying literally he needs to leave. He's just a change man and needs to go. People are not impressed with Wilshere. We've actually got someone, I think Dan FM Norwich is on, and he's saying Maddison, we missed out on the player Maddison who went to Leicester. I've seen him recently. He looks quality. He really, really does. Again, people are agreeing Snodgrass, Antonio to go. Noble, he's been quality for several seasons, but maybe not so much now. Why not try Zaba at defensive midfield?
Yeah, good point.
And Nigel makes a really, really good point. We don't think we will miss Noble until Noble is missing. And still, I know that, but only I'm just going to rewind to last season. There was an occasion where everyone was calling for his head, then he was dropped, and then he came back in, and I think he played that London derby, and then he had about a good run of 10 to 12 games, and then everyone, to be fair, not you, was licking his arse, and I was one of them.
It's what Dan said. You can't just turn up only for certain games, and that's the trouble with Noble.
My biggest argument with that as well. Sorry, really sorry to interrupt you there, still. My biggest argument for that, right, is we were all fucking ready to hang Koyati last season for his performances against Shrewsbury and the way he used to run around like a headless chicken. Mark Noble did nothing better than what Koyati did last season against Bournemouth. It is not. You cannot forgive that. The way he just trotted back and let fucking Wilson run through. Don't get me wrong, there's four other guys that have to take the blame, but Mark Noble is the captain, should be leading by example. And I'm sorry, but I don't want 12 good games. I want a fucking season's worth.
What we seem to forget is the bad games that Noble's played in. People remember when he's up for it against Tottenham, when he's up for it against this team, when he's up for it against that, when he's up for it for certain games. But we forget about the games that he's been in that we've lost. We've lost 4 games that Noble's been in. Two of them Noble's been involved in. So let's not You know, and as soon as we start faltering, the first thing people cry out for is because Noble's not in the team. Well, I'm sorry, it's not because Noble's not in the team, because we were just as shit with him in the team. You know, so and people kind of forget that. And Dan's right. You can't just turn up for a game because it's against Spurs. So now I'm going to turn up and be the captain.
Yeah.
You've got to turn up for 38 games and be a captain.
I hate to keep coming back
but
to
this
it.
ain't just Mark Noble's fault. Let's not get don't get me wrong.
But I hate to keep coming back to it. But how influential is he really if we've only won 14 games at home in the last 2 years?
Good point. Good point.
How fucking influential is he really? I'm sorry, this isn't.
Dan, can you let the fans know that stat? I don't know if anyone knows that really, but
so of the 40 games that we've played at home at the London Stadium, we've only won 14. That was
40 games.
14, yeah. So I was doing a little research for my Premier League show, and that popped up, and I actually couldn't quite believe that's all we've managed. And that's why I've been saying for ages that the stadium is a problem. That it's obviously there's something embedded in that squad. They're just petrified to play there. They are. There's something very wrong with it, and I think a lot of it is no natural leaders, and the whole West Ham fucking the way of supporting the club, everything changed. It's just changed in the last 2 years. It's more.
Yeah.
The thing is, we all sit here in these chats, and we're not the only people to do it. There's plenty of West Ham channels. There's plenty of other channels for other teams, but we all sit here in these chats, and we all try and pinpoint one thing that is the reason why the club's gone wrong, right? I think where West Ham's concerned, we're one of the rare ones where it's a number of things. It's a lot of things. It's the board, it's the team, it's the manager, it's the stadium, it's the fans to some extent. You know, the new breed of fans just don't know what it takes to support a football team. And you could have that with any team. I'm not just blaming our fans. But it's just so many things, and then they all just end up in this big ball of fucking shite. And what you're left with is this cloud and blue team, unfortunately, and it's
going to take years to put right.
It is.
The funny thing is,
we'd be moving forward, and we ain't. We just feel like we're getting back every year. That is the biggest problem.
It's taking a big wake up call just to be lied to, basically saying it's not what it was picked up to be. I mean, you walk in, it just has that corporate feel to it. It has that modern football feel, where there's no soul to anything. It's all just put there. You buy a grub or you buy a beer, you have a chat aside, you walk in. There's no real home feel to it. Everyone's got the same look on their face, like we're here. Let's get ready for the game. Let's get the game going. The build up isn't really, you know, it's not what it is. Because, you know, when you go and buy your grub and stuff, the staff aren't, you know, I've never really had a good vibe of the staff, not brilliant or anything like that. But I think, like you say, Dan, is that if people are expecting more, that's the problem. People, when we move to this ground, it's almost like we're not going to accept even what the old West Ham was, which was that even though we might have given it on the pitch and the players might have been putting in the effort, the results weren't there. Now it's like, no, hold on. We've been dragged out of our stadiums. We've been basically kicked and shoveled and, you know, shoehorned into this new stadium, saying, right, here's stadium, lads, we're going to be really successful here, so go and enjoy yourselves. And now we're not, and we're like, hold on, no, we could have been shit at the old stadium. We're not going to take being shit at the new stadium. Oh. We've got to now start getting fucking results. So when we see it, the reaction is 10 times. Cheers, Phil.
Sorry about that.
That felt like he fell off his chair, but he didn't. It was just the camera. It was gone, man.
I think it was the anger going, Luke, shut up, moaning or something. You're in the stadium. Yeah. That is what it feels like to me. I think it's because everything, like you say, Dan, it's a build up of everything, and then when it doesn't go particularly perfect, like we all kind of think, well, it should be now, kind of thing. Now that we've got the players, finally, we should be playing some good football.
It's what
effort should be there.
It's what Ant said earlier. You know, we're 3 seasons behind.
Actually,
what should have happened?
Can you put your capture? I preferred that view actually. If you've seen it,
yeah, fuck you, mate. Anyway, on to serious matters. It's what Anne said. We're 3 seasons behind. What should have... I mean, we all said it so many times before. We left the bowl in on a high. That's when the board should have invested 100 million on players, on the squad, etc. Because we would have been... So, you know, the problems that we're all talking about would have felt less significant if we'd had a couple of reasonably successful seasons at the new stadium. Yeah. That's what we would have had. Oh, look, Ant's fallen off now. That's what we would have had.
Mate, because you're talking.
He's fucked off, mate. He's had enough. He's like 1,000 fucking points to catch
oh
up
shit, Stell's talking. I better go.
I was done with you, Still.
Do you know what it is as well, right? So a few lies, right? I'm not one of these fans that's gone to the new ground and believed a few lies, right? We're West Ham, we're shit. We've always been shit. The one thing I would say though is at least when we were shit back then, we cared. Because for me, I feel like the club just doesn't care about us, about the football, about results, about the fact they pay a striker 90 grand, about the fact they pay a striker 90 grand a week to be, on the treatment table. They just, I just feel
what strike is that? We care because we're on a show like this, talking about how we care.
We do, the proper fans, we care. I'm on about the club as a whole. I just feel like since the move, it's just like it's like they've accepted. Yeah, we're shit. We're not going to win anything. But
mediocrity.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah.
It's just.
Do you know? I'm saying this now, right? To anyone who had a go at Arnie for not running round, which I find to be the most hilariously embarrassing comment anyone could make against Arnie compared to what he is. And well done, Alan Shearer, for picking the one fucking highlight of the whole game where he wasn't running around. Yeah. Probably fucking knackered, bless him. When he had his post-match interview, psychologically, when you watch it, right, he's just talking through the emotions. He's absolutely, he's either seething or he's like me, he's deflated because his eyes are not even looking anywhere. They're just like.
I saw that. Like, I think he's wondering what the fuck is going on. I think that's probably what was going through his head. He's probably thinking, he must have looked around on Saturday and gone, Am I really the only one that's actually trying? Him and Fabianski. No. Let's go back. Diop played well. Balbuena played well.
Oh yeah.
Arnie was a bit, but nothing was happening for him.
When you go on the pitch, you see the fans crying, fans screaming and cheering, whatever. You see him get the buzz. You see him looking around the rest of the players going, come on, lads, the fans up for it. He starts clapping the fans. Always comes over to the fans at the end of the game. To be talking about him like this when we first signed him is unreal. But I'm saying, genuinely, he looks, you can see he gets the buzz. And he looks around him and he goes, fuck me, lads, can you not hear this? Are you not seeing this? Are you not getting this? That is what annoys me more than anything. That is what deflates me. When people go, oh, the atmosphere is crap at West Ham. No, it's not. We start off being really pumped. And then we get let down by the team who go, what?
It's the shower of shit we have to watch is what drags us down.
Yeah, and then the worst thing about it is, I was going to say this earlier, when you stand up to sing, you're told to sit down by a fucking steward. And they're going, well, the fans are calling us to support them, but can you hear me from my seat down here? I can't see because the pitch is away.
Come down to the Bobby Moore lower. No one sits down.
Before we carry on, I want to look down the camera and deliver a public service announcement. And if you've got a young child and Arnautovic is his hero, do not get the name printed on the shirt and stop that happening, because at the end of the season, he's off. Because if he has a good year, lads, and this fucking shit continues, Arnie will be sold. Don't let your child idolise him like we all idolise Payne.
And the rest.
I think during that interview, I think he was staring, going, Mourinho called me on the Tuesday before the season died. I didn't take that phone call. Why don't I take it? Why is my brother a prick?
I looked at it and I thought, oh, not this prick. But I wish I'd picked it up now. Yeah. I just feel sorry for him that when, of all the players that people, and that's the thing, I put a post I think on one of the West Ham groups and I said I can see Arnie getting digs, and I can see I saw it on Twitter, I saw it on Facebook, and a lot of fans are going, I never saw that, well I did, but it's one of the things where you go, please don't have a go at the players who are trying, because you can, as much as we all said we played awful against Wolves, as much as we all said as a collective, as a team, we were awful. There were a few players who shouldn't actually be taking the blame for that, because Diop, Balbuena kept us in that game for a long while. They were unlucky, to right at the end to be let down. And the most ironic thing about it is we were linked with Traore a season ago, and we were told that we didn't sign him because he had no end product and he was a Championship player. That is the most West Ham thing to ever happen. Well. Yeah. Well done, Dan. I'm their scout, remember? This has been a very depressing gift of the gab to this point. So what I'm going to do is open this up to the chat.
Oh, actually, no. This is what I'm going to say before you finish, right? This is what I'm going to say my rant.
I'm not going to finish.
Really? Is this not the Luke show? Oh shit! Sorry, wrong one.
Mate, the Luke show is all you need. That's all you need. Get rid of against the game. Anyway, if the players are intimidated by the fans booing them, by the fans growing them, if the fans around us are going, don't boo the players, we're putting them off. Have you seen the fucking ultras in European football? The likes of Dinamo Kiev, Besiktas, all that. You can't say the word still, but I can say it.
I can say it. I can say they're shit stats. Yeah.
The ones who bring out the flares, the fucking.
Do you know what that's actually brought back when you was in Bulgaria still, and you kept.
Yeah.
You had obviously gone out one night and you were pissed as a fart, and you just kept sending us just little voice messages going Besiktas, Behiktas. It was like
I was pretty hammered that night, mate.
Yeah, I bet you was.
Honestly, for the viewers watching, you're missing out on the WhatsApp group because it is fucking funny at times. It's what keeps us going.
That's what we should be recording on podcast. Our chats in WhatsApp.
Yeah,
that's what we should be recording.
Especially after a few beers, you know.
Oh yeah, once he started putting his photos up of beer and alcohol.
But yeah, what was
anyway?
Anyway,
the ultras, they're lucky. They haven't got flares that going, because that is when you get the proper abuse. You have to see. That's when you get abused that side, when you get thrown a bus for you weren't saying up. You get fucking death threats put and fucking bricks put through footballers' windows. Don't start moaning now, because we could do a lot.
In the words of Troy Deeney, Luke, they need to grow some cojones. I think that's what a lot of our players need to do.
As soon as you said that, Watford did shite last year as soon as you said that, ironically. But yeah.
The thing I want to open up, just before we leave, lads, because it's been a pretty depressing gift of the gab. Come on, let's...
Quite enjoyed it, actually.
Yeah, well, you know, we all have a good moan from time to time. But can at least one of you just share a happy memory from better times with West Ham United? I don't care who does it, or if you all want to share one. Let's just try and leave on a good note. Let's leave the viewers with something positive at least.
How far back do you want us to go, mate?
And is honestly sitting there, and I can see the cogs working, which is really fucking worrying.
How far back do you want us to go?
You can go as far as you want. Still, we know you're the oldest member of the group, so.
Respect your elders.
Still used to ride a T-Rex to Tesco, so you know.
Fondest memory: last game of the bowling. There you go. I was there in the crowd with my daughter, watching that game against Man U, and the atmosphere was rocking. And we'll have those days. We'll have those days again. We will have those. It'll be a generation, but those days will come back again, mate. There you go. That's being.
I hope they come back. I hope they come back by the time I've got kids.
You've made me feel so happy, but so depressed at the same time. Well done, still.
I only missed 4 games that season, as well.
Yeah, I didn't miss one, mate.
What a fucking season!
But there you go.
Well, I only missed Stoke because I got married the day before, and I was going to go to the Stoke game, but I thought, is it really worth it? Could you imagine? But yeah, what a season that was. Anyone else?
Yeah, playoff final, Vaz-Tê, the whole build-up, a chance to go to Wembley and see West Ham, doesn't matter if it was Championship final. The whole day build-up, singing at Liverpool Street, train station, outside, fans everywhere, all throughout London. Everywhere you went, you seen West Ham cars. Walking up to Wembley, getting in the stadium, what 2 minutes to go, Vaz-Tê, like, how could we have done it?
Did you do your best impression of Rabsy Nesbitt at Liverpool Station?
I don't know what you're talking about, mate. I'm like, No, but that day was immense, and we just need to remember that we are, at the end of the day, everyone wore claret and blue. And the minute you wear claret and blue, if you eat popcorn, you want to eat fucking what you want. I do not care. Do you
know what? I was waiting for popcorn to get mentioned. I really was. Popcorn.
Do you know what?
Popcorn gate.
Popcorn gate.
I'm going to say this now, right? And there's going to be at least one person. There's going to be at least one person in the chat that's going to be offended by this. But if you're one of these cunts that wants to slag someone off for the choice of food they eat at a football stadium, go get fucked. I couldn't give a shit if he's eating popcorn. He's obviously entertained. We might not be. Let the fucking idiot eat the popcorn. Who cares? Eat a pie, have a pint, do what the fuck you want. Why? Don't judge someone on that. That's ridiculous. It really is ridiculous.
But then equally, don't judge someone on sitting down at the stadium either,
No,
because
it's just-
people have to fucking sit down. So don't sit there and say this is the wrong fucking area to stand in. Don't. It's just look. I'm looking at you in particular. Look, it's no, just because your face is trying to dig me out, and that's enough for me to get started. Anyway,
I said on a video on my channel, it takes more energy to fucking spit hate than it does to be nice to someone, and it does.
Yeah.
You expel more energy to being a cunt, and I'm not on about a good cunt like us lot are.
Yeah, but there is a lot of angry energy in that stadium.
Yeah,
Dan,
there
you are
will be,
helped
but there's
out by
no need
that.
to be a prick, is there, about someone eating some popcorn? He doesn't know, does he?
Right. Yeah.
anyway, back to happier times.
Yeah, go on, Luke.
You ready for Balamori for story time? Kids, settle down, go around Grandpa. Not you still for once, to be me this time. Right. I feel kind of underprivileged for this, but I hardly actually went to Upton Park. I went probably maximum 10 times. And I
You're 10.
No. Sit down. Shut up. Read the comments.
That was a shit joke.
Yeah, I don't know how
Yeah, it
you
was,
could
it
really
was.
take the piss out of someone for being young.
I know.
Yeah.
All right, Dan.
Let's have a story now, please. Thank you.
Go on, Luke. Go on, Luke.
Right,
Almost
okay.
midnight.
It's yeah. You lot took your fucking asses off tonight. We used to have a little go tonight, I think. Yeah, mine's a recent one actually. Mine's from last season, and I'll always remember it because it was just ironic the way it happened. I still get goosebumps now thinking about it. It was the Leicester game last season. David Moyes was in charge, and it was when Arnie finally turned up, and everyone went, "Oh, fucking actually, he does work hard. He is one of the players."
Yeah.
Basically, in the second half, West Ham were playing shit, and the fans gave up, trying to give him encouragement. So they weren't going to work. They knew it weren't going to happen. It was an important game, but Bobby Moore started banging. I think for the first time, actually, banging on the side of the stands, and started singing "We Are West Ham's Character Army," and it just seeped through around the stadium.
Yeah.
And it finally felt like, fuck me, this is what they mean by this stadium has a potential. And then the players, honestly, I've still got the buzz now because the players were sort of running around going, fucking hell, right, get up there now. You come on and tried to get a penalty. It was just the best buzz ever. The Leicester players were intimidated. It was crazy. It was almost like the Tottenham game when we beat with Lanzini. But what was ironic is the fact that the fans just gave up trying to just sung for themselves. We sung for ourselves like the best thing we can do, when all the fans get behind us, and we all stood up and we all cheered. It was the best fucking feeling ever. And this is what I said in my rant as well. I said that I know we all hate the stadium for whatever reasons, or most of us, we've got a problem with it at some stage, right? All the problems with everything, right? Players are shit, results are shit, nothing's going right. I think what now has to happen is that West Ham fans have to just try and make your day as enjoyable as possible.
Make the best of it.
Because you've got to try and go, I'm coming here, we are going to be shit, the players ain't going to turn up, we are going to lose, blah this, blah that. But if we actually just fucking get up and just start singing, no one can stop us. The players can't say the fans weren't behind them. And I still relate back to that game, and that is the one thing that we drew 1-1. We were still shit. We never done it. We never played any better. Didn't get anywhere near scoring more. It was just the atmosphere was crazy that night, and I always remember it. That will always stick in my memory. And it's typical because we didn't win and we were shit, but it was still a fucking great atmosphere. And I really wanted to come back.
Do you know what's funny about that as well, Luke? Is one of my fondest memories since we've probably been in this ground. That actually involves us lot. Last game of the season last year, right? And
last season.
And a lot of that. Do you know what a lot of that is? And I'm going to touch on something there, which is quite a nice thing that football does. Is it brings people together. Right, because none of us a year ago knew each other from Adam, but it brought us together through our love of West Ham. And plus, that last game of the season, we all got absolutely shit-faced. We had the time of our life, and that is what football's about for me. It's the meeting the people, and it's that you go out, you have a drink, you meet this person, you meet that person. I don't know if Drew's watching tonight as well, but me and Stel, we've got to tip our hat to him. How the fuck he was still standing after the Wolves game is beyond me. We had exactly the same amount to drink, but what a champion. He was wobbling. He nearly ended up in Dan's lap. But that's what football's about. It's about having a beer with your mates, having a whinge about West Ham, and, hopefully
and you've got to
come back to join it.
And on that, Dan,
West Ham.
Perfect time to talk about the supporters club before we go.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
I'll let you do the honours here still.
Well, still, yeah, you do that. It's a good one for you, still.
All right. Well, the next home game, which will be against Chelsea, Chelsea, Man U.
Man U, innit?
Who's next?
Fuck.
One of those two.
My phone's dead, so I can't tell.
In the next home game, we'll be back at Style Space. If you don't know anything about the supporters club, there's going to be a link at the bottom of the screening afterwards.
Yep.
And yeah,
I'll add all that.
Link up, have a look. It's a worthy cause. By the way, they've got a meeting this Sunday, so anyone that's joined as a member,
Chelsea's the next game.
Chelsea. I thought it was Chelsea. Anyone who's a member can go along to this meeting to lend their support. Anyone who's a long-standing member of the previous supporters club will be able to vote. It's all about voting for the new people to run the supporters club. So get your asses down there and lend some support to the supporters club. The details about Style Space, how you join as a member, etc., will be linked at the bottom of this video.
And on top of what Stell's just said there, it's a bloody good time there. There's a lot of people that you meet, top West Ham lot, cheap beer, and it's just a nice place to drink as well. We are obviously partnered with the Supporters Club this season as well, so we'll be doing our reviews there after most home games. So if you have got an opinion and you want to get involved, do feel free to come down to the Supporters Club and you'll be able to find one of us. Our rugby mugs anyway, but excellent. Is there anything else anyone else has to say before we, tie this thing up?
Probably about
it's been a long one. We've been going for about an hour and a half.
Yes, there is. There's a new film that's getting released over the next couple of days, and there's a famous couple of actors, Pierce Brosnan, David Baptista. But when you're playing a football match, who the fuck doesn't notice a man on a motorbike jumping from one stand to another on the roof?
I'm so glad I wasn't the only one that thought it.
I was like, I know it's fucking Hollywood, but this is East End of London, and there's a fucking motorbike jumping from one stand to the other. And I'm like, what the fuck? And no one notices it.
I'm not being funny. If he's up there on a motorbike, he definitely gets a pound coin thrown at him by one of the West Ham faithful. They wouldn't fight with that.
Look. All I'm saying is this, right? During that season, right, you could have bloody Liz Hurley and Holly Willoughby naked in front of one of the stands in front of the court boxes, right? When Pyatt is lining up a free kick, every fucking eye is on that gorgeous man that season, and then wanting to score that fucking goal. You could literally be having your dream woman in front of you, sucking you off and having a good time, right? And you're going, no, sorry, love, get off me for 5 seconds. Go on, Pyatt. Way, happy days. So Francisco could be falling off, could be doing WWE stuff. No one cares because that game, I think it's the game I'm thinking of. That was I can understand that, but I keep thinking that
he's such a cunt. But what I'd give for one of his free kicks right now, Jesus, making me moist. But anyway, Ant's got the tea. He's ready for bed.
Don't come back, Pyatt, but please come back.
Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, Ant's done. He's ready for bed. He's got red eyes and he's got the tea. He's trying to stay awake. Still, I'm surprised he ain't asleep already because he's well. And Luke could talk all night. So I think it's time.
One more.
Well, we're gonna go on camera and Luke can carry on.
One more. Instead of popcorn, right? Can we have some weed cakes or weed muffins, please, just to try and enjoy the experience a bit more at West Ham? I'm sure you still
you don't want to fall asleep completely, Luke. For fuck's sake.
The football puts you to sleep as it is, mate.
But if you're gonna have weed cakes, mate, you're not gonna watch any of the game.
I don't know. Anyway, I watch you through fucking anyway, crack on. Good night. Love you. Yeah. I've had enough now. I've slumped down to so low and low. The walls has gone on.
You've literally just backed up the fact that you talk too fucking much. Anyway, lads, before we kill Stel, because getting to that point in life, but we are off.
Tablets now.
It's getting to that point in life. Yeah.
This has been gift of the gab.
I'll still outlast all of you, but anyway,
you definitely will, mate. Jesus. But yes, this has been a gift of the gab. We're going to try and do this once a month from now on, so do keep your eyes out for it. It's the one and only show that will always be live on the channel. Remember to hit that subscribe button, drop likes on the video, comments below as well, and love spending this time at work reading all that. So anyway, my friends.
Can I ask a favour at the next one?
No, shut up, Still. You're talking too much.
Can we have a scrolling text at the bottom of the next slide?
On that note, see you later, my friends. Fuck the scrolling text. Latest.